There we go. There we go. I like that a lot better. Salute to the family. Salute to the family. And make sure everything's a go. We're going to get straight into it. We ain't going to wait too long. Not too long. Get a family enough time to tap in. All right. Where's YouTube at? Hope everybody's having a good day out there. I'm glad y'all tapping in with me. And I had to put the book cover. That's who we'll be talking about today. That's who we're going to tap into. It's only right that I showcase his book, Ivan Van Sertima. Very knowledgeable guy. Very, very knowledgeable. Like I said, one of the teachers, one of my teachers, great author, very dope as a scientist. I think we should get into it, man. We're going to give it a second. We're going to give him a second. Give it about 5 minutes. Get straight to it. Make sure to share this out. Hit the like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff.
As long as I'm dancing, acting or rapping, walking around like I don't know what's happening. You like me, you like me, you like me.
Come on in, family.
If I'm talking about drinking and nothing about thinking, as long as I'm high and I never ask why. You like me, you like me.
As long as I'm a zombo, you like me.
But the second I start with the state of the economy, black leadership, black cards, and black sovereignty, that's when
Give
you
it about
can't
5
seem to
minutes.
follow me. Confusion, you feel like you're losing. I'm no longer amusing. This song's about choosing while you cruising. Either black entertainment or the black revolution. People love to see a young black man rap until he wakes up and realizes he's caught in the trap. So as long as I'm dancing, acting or rapping, walking around like
I don't know what's happening. Y'all like it? Hope the day is going well for the family. We right back to it. I'm not going to hold up too much of your time today. We're just going to take a minute. Just a minute of your time, family. Make sure to share it out. I know YouTube doesn't send my stuff out like they should. Sometimes that's how it goes. So I got to get a family time to come in. But we ain't going to be waiting forever, trust me.
Black people fighting amongst themselves, that's the problem. White people fighting amongst themselves, that's the problem. U.S. foreign policy is simply
See the future. Peace, God. Peace. Just giving the family some time to tap in. Hope all is well, God. Gives me time. I ain't gonna hold up y'all time today. Not too long. But if you're gonna talk about Ivan Van Sertima, I gotta at least showcase his work. Give it about 5 minutes. You know. Get a family time.
I'm talking about drinking and not about thinking. As long as I'm high and I never ask why.
You like me. As long as I'm drinking, not about thinking. You like me.
You like me.
But the moment I start thinking,
you like me.
Yeah, you like me. And after I get through, see, people got to be here to know this part. After I get through showcasing, a couple videos from each of the master teachers, what I'm going to do after that is showcase debates, real debates. In the Black collective, we always speak, or it's always brought up, that as a collective, we have to learn communication. So what's a better way to showcase communication to showcase a proper debate? A debate is arguing. A debate is my position against your position. My debate is everything these arguments we get into every day entail. but they do it in a proper way. So what's a better way to showcase the best on communication than to show debates, man? And there's going to be people where it flies over their head. They're not even going to learn anything from showcases like that. But it is what it is. And without further ado, we have hit 5 minutes. It's time. So I'll spin it right here. Salute. We about to get straight into a GG. Today we'll be talking about Ivan Van Sertima. Once again, this is his book. He has more than one book, of course. Early America Revisited. There's a couple books I can't. It ain't coming to my head, but he got plenty of books, and I'll put them up so you can check it out and dig into them. Today, I'm not taking up too much of your time. Like I said, we'll be talking about Ivan Van Sertima, one of the master teachers, author, scholar, scientist. We'll be talking about the Africans in science, ancient and modern. I'm not taking up too much of your time, family. I hope you got your pen and pad or your mental pen and pad. Hope you got a little bit of time. Let's get straight into it.
I spent 4 years at the School of Oriental and African Studies, London University, doing my first degree, and never once in all those years did I learn anything about any African civilization.
Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, share, all the good shit y'all know I need from y'all that I put responsibility on y'all with. Make sure y'all handle that for me. We got a dope one. A very dope
for
one.
a long time had a love affair with the primitive. And the great interest, almost exclusive interest, has been on that little man living on the edge of the world. And I know about that little man because I'm a primitive.
Make sure to share this out, family.
I spent nearly 14 years in the jungle, and not the jungles of Africa, the jungles of South America. I was born in Georgetown, but I spent a great part of my boyhood in the jungle.
Salute, Arsh.
I lived therefore on the periphery of the South American civilization.
We right to it today. Right to it.
About the port of Makusi, India. I could not for a moment think that to do an ethnography of the Makusi Indian, a little primitive tribe on the edge of the world, I would be giving any vision whatsoever of South American civilization. I little knew then that behind me lay Machu Picchu, a city carved out of sheer rock, calling for the engineering ingenuity unparalleled in Europe at the time. I little knew that the Makusi had cousins with the Mexicans, and I'm not talking about shrunken Mexico of today. I'm talking about Mexico.
This is his book. That's his book right there.
American civilization. And Columbus himself never saw that Mexico. Columbus wandered on the edge or periphery of America. Columbus, in fact, never once set his foot on the American continent. Even within recent history, the recent recorded history of the world, of the Americas, of Africa, we are faced with massive delusions. And the object of this conference here, the mission of the scholars who have come to this conference, is to put an end, at least the beginning of...
Appreciate those that appreciate knowledge, man. This type of shit ain't for everybody.
We know very little, or rather we have known very little of the technologies of early Africa because of this concentration on the primitive. I grew up in a jungle twice as large as any jungle in Africa. Africa, in fact, has less jungle than any other continent comparable with its land space. If you took
don't run from the information. I know, don't run from it though.
Woodland and forest in 2 Europes than there is in Africa. Our image of jungle springs from the fact that most anthropologists, at least in the past, it may be changing slightly now, and with these studies it will change even more rapidly.
Okay, Fox, good,
Most
good.
anthropologists have been satisfied to go looking for vanishing little tribes, utterly irrelevant. The
This ain't for everybody. I know knowledge scares a lot of niggas
and they go
away.
and they spend 6 months a year and they study all they know about the Lugabugas. All their little ritual and their dances and their kinship system, who is my mother's brother, sister's son, etc. Utterly irrelevant to any illuminating vision of African civilization. And they come and they extrapolate masses of things about it. And so we have thousands and thousands of books about Africa that tell us absolutely nothing about the quintessential African. This has been the case for at least 5 centuries. It is only within the last 5 years that we have had discoveries that make us aware of what is happening in Africa. Only within the last few years, 5 to 15 years. Only a few men have come forward and have given us this vision. Because even many of our so-called African scholars are so Europeanized that they merely repeat and echo what they have discovered. And I'm not using the word Europeanized in a racial sense. I too, like Sheikh Anta Diop, can claim, perhaps with even more justification, that I have not a racist streak in my being. I am saying this because it is true. And I'm saying it because I believe in what I call the Eurocentric and Afrocentric visions. It has nothing to do with color or skin. It's a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. It is just a tragedy and a truth.
Let's
that
check
most
into
people who have
the,
Eurocentric consciousness
I
have
believe.
to fight. But this is also true of a great many of our blacks. And I speak, having traveled throughout the black world, a great many of our people have no conception whatsoever of where they come from, what is going on, and where they're going. And I have heard many of my people say, we have to start from scratch. Let us admit we did nothing. Even in the tongue-in-cheek poetry of Césaire, though Césaire is a great poet, he never meant it in that sense. We who explored nothing, he who invented nothing.
shout out to the scientists out here, tapped in with it.
Just a few years
for
ago,
real.
in 1978, 2 American scientists, Schmidt and Avery, discovered that Africans were smelting steel 1,500
I got a video on this. I'll break this part down.
Tanzania. They were smelting it in a machine that was using a semiconductor technology unknown until the 20th century. They were making steel at
Y'all gotta go check out my playlist.
1,850 degrees centigrade. No machine, no iron smelting machine in Europe or anywhere else had achieved those temperatures. The highest recorded in Europe was about 1,620 degrees centigrade in a 2nd century furnace, Roman draft furnace. And not only that, not only they found the Africans were producing a fine bloom of carbon steel, they were doing it in a single stage, so that even in the middle of the 19th century, when George Wilhelm Siemens, the German, found a method for mass producing steel, the European process in the mid-19th century involved 2 stages, whereas the African process involved just 1. They were using iron crystallization process in order to produce that steel. And they were doing it not only more efficiently, not only were they producing a finer bloom of steel, but they were doing it using less fuel.
Absolutely. Shout out to the scientists, like I said. Shout out to the scientists out there. I know this information be scaring niggas
These
off.
things have only recently come to light.
So shout out to y'all for
and they
real.
have changed our understanding.
Motherfuckers want to sound good, talk about that knowledge, but don't want to come get it or drop it. Come
And
fuck
right in
with it.
that area where you see these little shattered villages, that is where an industrial site had grown up 1,500 years ago. We were
You know
all
I'ma
told
walk it in
about
talking.
how we were dragged out of the bush and how colonization lifted us up. Few of us are aware. We are aware of what happened to the transplanted black, but very few of us
This
are aware
is his book.
what happened to Africa itself. You cannot imagine what
Not only the video, but the actual
you
book.
cannot imagine what it is to take about 100 million people, the youngest people, and rip them out of the heart and core of a continent, the disintegration of family networks, the tremendous things that fell on Africa, the disease in one area in Tanzania. There were 5 million head of cattle. Europeans came in, introduced rinderpest, not deliberately, but they introduced it nevertheless. Almost all the cattle disappeared. You cannot imagine in the Americas, millions of people vanished just because of the common cold which Europeans had introduced in America.
Yeah.
You're not aware of the massive destruction of civilization, so that people could mock us now and say, are you talking about all the great things that you did? If you did all of these great things, why are you not great now? What has happened to you? Why are you so broken and shattered and fragmented and lost? Why do you feel so inferior? You feel inferior and fragmented because...
Share the stream out. Hit that like, family. I see y'all coming in. Don't be shy.
Make no mistake about it. While it may be
There we
very
go.
difficult,
That's what I'm talking about.
impossible to change in any revolutionary way
Sometimes
our
we
economic
forget, that's all.
situation for a long time to come, we can change our consciousness, and through consciousness, we can literally
Salute,
change.
NFC.
And that is why these are not just facts. We do not just come, as academics usually do, to give a new set of facts, because facts are not necessarily true. Facts need to be breathed into. Facts have to have a quality, a vision.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Because
See
as
the
I
future.
discovered when I began to study Native
That's what I'm
America
trying to
and
do.
the history of America closely, I found the people who had the most facts had the least truth. It has to do
Salute,
with
Ross.
a certain vision, a certain eye. Why did American scientists have to discover
That's
the
his book.
tea-making machine?
He
Why
wrote
didn't the
that
British
book.
discover it?
That's
They
why I
were
showed
there
it this
much
morning.
longer. No.
I was
They
giving an
assumed
Easter egg what I was doing
that
today.
Africans had only achieved 1,250 degrees centigrade in their blast furnaces. How did they arrive at that scientific conclusion?
Shout out to the
Because
scientists.
that was roughly the lowest temperature at which you could smelt iron, and the Africans were the lowest people. And there was no question that they did smelt iron, so that was their centigrade.
Let's see who show up for this real game. Let's see who show up.
Study of their machines. Nobody went and asked them. I know that. When I was in East Africa, I was sent out by the School of Oriental and African Studies, London University, right here. I was sent to get a list of legal terms. They didn't expect me to produce a dictionary. They like this piecemeal nonsense. You go out and you
That's
do
right,
this
Scorpion,
thing.
the
Somebody
queen,
goes out and
goddess, what you
studies
having?
hesitation phenomena. I met a girl
Shout out
doing
to
a
y'all
PhD in
for real.
hesitation
Y'all really the
phenomena.
MVPs for
What is
real.
that? She says, you know when you're going to say something and you pause.
Y'all walking and talking like I do. I love it.
What do the Swahili say? That's our PhD.
Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, share, hit that Cash App, PayPal, Patreon. Fuck with me,
Concentration
family.
on pettiness. That is why there emerges from that the image of petty Africa.
Make sure to hit that like, though. Get me in them algorithms.
And I asked when I was out there, I saw them making up an enormous word list. They've been spent 3 years making up an enormous
We
word
all
list.
walking and talking. I love it. We scientists in here.
And I'm not going to call names because some of these people are still living, unfortunately. But I asked them, why are you doing this? Why don't you go among the people, find out what Swahili legal terms they're using in the courts? And I remember someone turning on me. I can't remember the accent well because I've left Britain 14 years ago. Then Sertima, what
real,
are you
NFC,
talking
for
about?
real.
Going among the people? What writing do they have? They only started to write when we came here. I went the first day I was down in Morogoro. I found documents, long legal documents, going back.
If you can, share the stream out. I want to try to get the info to as many people as possible, if possible.
On the basis of those documents that I was able to build slowly.
If you got a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a Twitch, share it out.
When I came back, they said it was a landmark in Swahili studies. It was an important contribution. Yet when the time came for my degree, they said it would not be counted. Never heard about it again until I saw parts of it creeping up in the works of the published work.
There we go. Get
of
them
one
likes
of my
up. I love it. I
esteemed
love it.
colleagues in the United States. I want you to know, and I suppose you already know this, and that is why one.
I put the caption up so y'all can read it just in case it's a little fuzzy in the sound.
Has become highly political. There is no way, and I have tried to avoid getting involved in these squabbles, but there is no way that you can present these facts without presenting the atmosphere in which one garnered these facts. When I brought out my book, They Came Before Columbus, I was pilloried. The New York Times spent 3 pages. They'd never attacked a black man like that. 3 pages trying to show it is nonsense.
This is it. Ivan Van Sertima.
And then they waited when 7
And that's his book.
professors defended me. People I don't know from Adam, including people, the oldest Mesoamerican archaeologists who had actually discovered the African heads in pre-Columbian America. And they spent several weeks to print those letters. And the letter I wrote back to my critic, it was heavily doctored. All the facts.
Well, I already know, Ross.
Every time
I know who to expect and who's going to be here already. I know who's going to be here for real.
This is not
Trust
a
me,
joke.
trust me. I know who's going to show up for
Very
what.
serious matter. I was denied.
I know who's going to show up for my morning streams. I know who's not going to show up for these gym drops. I already know,
Walk in
Queen.
like that and get permanent residence for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I could not travel outside of America.
Absolutely,
without
King,
being on
King.
parole. They had a little thing, my picture.
There we go,
On
Scorpion. I
parole.
love
had
it.
to go to Trinidad on parole, on the country.
Shout out
arrest.
to the scientists. I'm a read the stream. Shout out to the scientists.
Knowledge of this nature is recognized as being very revolutionary, very serious. But let me come back to my
Check
subject.
in one time, Candace. Salute,
The
Queen.
discovery just a few months after the
Ivan Van Sertima.
Sertima.
That's his book right there.
Astronomical observatory, a kind of African Stonehenge.
Salute,
at
Queen, salute.
Namaratunga, northwest Kenya. Namaratunga, the place of stones. They discovered that the Africans there in Kenya had developed an astronomical observatory. It looked at first like just a scrabble of stones, but when the stones were properly studied, they were in precise alignment, the constellation of stars, and they were able to show that these Africans had built an accurate prehistoric calendar 300 years before Christ in Kenya, which is at least 100 years before the so-called father of modern astronomy.
You hear
And
that,
this is
family?
not their first calendar. I don't want to touch
Hold
it.
on, I'm gonna run that back.
Which is at least, and they were able to show that these Africans had built an accurate prehistoric
Pen and pad,
calendar
pen and pad.
300 years before Christ in Kenya, which is at least 100 years before the so-called father of modern astronomy. And this was not their first calendar. I don't want to touch in Egypt now because Sheikh Anthony Diop said enough about that. But let me point to the fact that the calendar we use today is derived from the Egyptian. They were the first people to invent. But let me point to the fact that the calendar we use today is derived from the Egyptian. They were the
Here.
first people to invent the second of time, the second of hour, the hour, the minute. Their astronomical
Black man, black woman, you're
observations
amazing.
over many years produced these
You are amazing.
ideas, these precise quantities and volumes and times and standards which were later to dominate the world. The Babylonians did not have any proper
Sure,
calendar.
Scorpion.
The Egyptians had the 365 and a quarter days and the 365. And they took that quarter and they stretched it out over a long period of time. They dealt with that quarter. And they put 5 festival days at the end of the year, festival of the gods, and they split the year equally into 12 months of 30 days each. When the Greeks took it over, then they spread it out. As a result, today we have 28-day months, 29-day months, 30-day months, 31-day months. We need a rhyme in order to remember which is which. That calendar was invented in Ethiopia since 4241 BC. Before I leave Egypt, as I say, I don't want to dwell too much in that.
That's
but
a
other
black
parts
man.
of Africa. But before I leave that, let me mention the discovery, the significant discovery, which Sheikh Anthony Diop pointed to today.
Check Anthony Diop is the gentleman they show with the
discovery
glasses.
of a monarchy in the Nile Valley preceding the Egyptian, at least 2 centuries before the first Egyptian dynasty. And at Tarseti, they found not only architectural forms to which Dr. Diop pointed to this morning, they found the falcon god Horus, they found the crown, the unmistakable, the uniquely shaped crown of the Egyptians. They found the palace facades that were later used by the Egyptians, and above all, they found the hieroglyphs, so that the world's first major writing system is not even Egyptian, it is Ethiopian, it is Sudanic. There are so many evidences, apart from the question of what the Greeks said who actually saw these Egyptians, apart from all the evidence that Sheikh Anthony Diop has brought forward and others. There is evidence, the migration, the movement of agriculture, every major plant in Egypt, at least half a dozen are found coming from the south. There's not a single plant that comes down to the south. This nonsense about civilization, that civilization in Egypt was created by Asiatics and Caucasoids, and then they brought the light of civilization down to the benighted black barbarians in the south. Not a single shred of evidence. The script comes up, the agriculture comes up, all the symbols comes up, the conceptions of God, and all the various forms that were to become deities in Egypt, it all comes from the south. The art, everything you can see.
But salute, Pilo. I didn't say salute. Pilo, salute, God.
Ethiopian and Sudanic world. And Tarseti is the
shout out to the
scientists,
scientists.
the capping of the evidence. When we look at astronomy, as I was pointing to the calendars and the thing found at Namaratunga, they found something even more startling among the West Africans. In the 13th century AD, about 7 centuries ago, they found Africans were plotting an invisible star, Sirius B. Sirius A is the bright star we all see in the night sky. Sirius B is impossible to see with the naked eye. It is impossible to see it with the naked eye. It has a magnitude of about 8.5. And the Africans not only saw it, they plotted its orbit and trajectory right up to the end of the 20th century, up to the year 1990. And the diagram produced by our best astronomy today is identical with what they produced. Sirius B is impossible to see.
Run that back, because some people are writing this down. Some people are listening with their mental note. I want to run back certain parts. Excuse me about that, but I'm trying to give y'all some insight on how dope you are.
The Africans not only saw it, they plotted its orbit and trajectory right up to the end of the 20th century, up to the year 1990. And the diagram produced by our best astronomy today is identical with what they produced centuries ago. We only became aware of that star towards the end of the 19th century.
You're amazing, black man, black woman.
And not only that, they intuited its mass. This is a white dwarf. It is an imploded star. It's not only impossible to see with the naked eye, it is the most sophisticated astronomy that has shown us that a star so imploded is much heavier than stars that appear 6 times brighter and larger. They came to that conclusion. They had plotted the spiral
Oh no, we're so
structure
much
of the
more than
Milky
this.
Way.
See the future. I
They
agree.
had
We are
seen
so
the
much more than this.
Jupiter and Saturn, the rings and the moons, they had worked all of that out. But particularly Sirius B, it caused such astonishment, such consternation in astronomical circles that Kenneth Brecht of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts, he said, the Africans have no business knowing any of this. And
Once
that
you
is
remember
true.
how dope you are, it's a
Africans,
wrap.
as we know them, as we have learned to conceive of them, have no bloody business knowing anything. So that he has to check himself as to who he's talking about, because when we talk about the so-called traditional African, We are not talking about what lay at the core and heart of those shattered civilizations. If you want a modern example of what I mean, why all these discoveries are coming, but let me for a moment dwell on some new discoveries. Do you know that the Africans actually showed something contracting and expanding within the region of Sirius B, a supernova? Do you know only 2 years ago the Einstein
For the people lurking,
satellite, one of the United
or
States
for the people new
satellites,
coming in, this is his
discovered a
book.
supernova?
Ivan Van
2
Sertima,
years
that's his
ago.
book.
Space machine. Last year,
I have
one
the
of our
book.
space machines, American space machines, sent down radar beams into Africa, 16 feet below the African Earth, and saw traces of ancient rivers running from the Sahara towards the Nile Valley. I said that in my book 7 years ago.
They got Anubis in dog form for the cover. Yeah, I got the book.
I'm not trying to claim anything special about that, because a few anthropologists had said that too, on the basis of migration evidence and other kinds of evidence, linguistic networks, etc. But now they can see it from outer space.
Once again, his name is Ivan Van Sertima. Just in case in the description, the title, you can't see it. His name is Ivan Van Sertima.
They found, for example, mathematical systems in Africa. The first use of numbers, the first scientific evidence of the use of numbers is found in the Congo Zaire. It's known as Ishango bone. It's 8,000
I did a
years
video
old.
on that, and it's in my book.
Simple, but
Well,
it is
I touch on
because
it
it's
in
the
my
first
book.
evidence we do have. But we have found more complex, far more complex mathematical systems, like the Yoruba, for example, are found to be using a complex mathematical system, which one of the mathematicians calls one of the most abstract and complex mathematical systems. Why didn't we know about this? Because if you go among the Bushmen of the Kalahari, or the Bugabuga and the Lugabuga, you're not going to find mathematics. You don't go on the edge of the world to search for technologies. I've lived in Europe. I've not only lived in Western Europe. I spent nearly a year in Eastern Europe. I've lived among primitives, both sophisticated Europeans of the cities and semi-primitive Europeans. I've been in parts of Europe, in a village, where as many as 20 people were using one bathroom. This is the 20th century. Nobody writes about those primitives because it's not fair. That's not the European. That is a European. And this is constantly being done to us. This is taken for granted. If you want to deal with the African, you find a savage, that is good enough.
Listen to him, fam.
And when we can't do that in Europe, and when we try to dwell on civilization, because that's what we are largely involved with, at least I am, Sheikh Anthony of, to some extent, Carlos Moore and others are involved in this. The classical civilization, the major classical contribution. When we dwell on
Man,
this,
shout out to y'all.
but you're being romantic.
Shout out to y'all.
When they're dealing with the primitive, they're not romantic. But when we try to bring it down to the core and center, we're romantic. Look at mathematics in Europe. It was nothing. Do you know that when the number system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's Hindu, the Arabs and Africans invaded Europe as Moors, and the Arabs brought from India the numbers Fibonacci. Yes, brought it to Europe first in 1202, but the Europeans didn't accept it because the church said numbers are works of the devil.
Y'all know I've seen all of these multiple times. Like, I watch all
So you
this
have
years
basic
ago.
arithmetic, that's the most, it became a capital offense during the Inquisition to study advanced mathematics and Arabic documents. Do you know how many documents have been destroyed in the world? The Library of Alexandria, where the Africans had built a library, some people calculated it 1 million, let me be conservative, 500,000. And these are not the libraries you can duplicate. You could blow up any library here. You could duplicate it somewhere else in the world. There are very few manuscripts that are standing by themselves. This was a time when a manuscript represented centuries of learning, where there were few duplicates or no duplicates at all destroyed. And yet the fragments exist, so significant that we have 10 major medical texts in African languages. The first medical texts in the world are in African language. The first mathematical papyri which you saw this morning, that's African. Those are the first. Even today, with all the destruction, we could still go back to the African.
Make sure to hit that like and all that good stuff, family. Appreciate y'all. For anybody new coming in, appreciate you. Shout out to the scientists, man. We pushing a different narrative over here.
Chapters on helminthiasis, ophthalmology, gynecology, pregnancy diagnosis, circulation of the blood, the pulse, diagnostic percussion, all that chapters, intestinal disease and all that 1,500 years before Christ. African. Then we go to look at these things that people say, well, why did it all disappear? How come it all disappeared? But look at the present world today. Suppose there was a third world war, which God forbid, but suppose there was. Most of the technology of the world is concentrated at certain centers within a matter of minutes. And believe me, it is a matter of minutes. It's not no days and weeks. The preliminary battles may take a few days and weeks, movement of armies and a lot of bluffing. But when the bomb strikes, it's just a matter of minutes. And the people who don't see light when it strikes are the lucky people. Most of the major cities of this civilization will be not even smoking. It will be almost nothing. The bombs dropped at the Russian baby bombs. They have bombs.
That's what I'm talking about.
Times more powerful. It does not smash the people.
This is Ivan Van Sertima. That's Ivan Van Sertima.
Even the
That's
waters
his book.
of the ocean are thrown up into the sky.
And we listening on Africans in science, modern and ancient.
But they will survive on the periphery,
Salute.
the edge of the world. That is the people we're going to look to centuries down the road and says that was their level, that was the level of science in the 20th century. That's what they're doing to Africa. Because what they struck us with was equivalent to 100 hydrogen bombs.
If you got any nieces, nephews, sons, daughters, tap them into these streams.
The consciousness of
It ain't rough. It ain't a lot of cussing going on and all that. Like in the morning, get them on, get them hip. I do these at 4:30.
Everything is an echo and echo and echo.
Show them the ones that's already up.
The basics in this civilization that Dr. Diop was showing.
Helio, salute.
That a great deal of the Greek science, and we're not attacking the Greeks.
This is Ivan Van Sertima. This is his
because they
book.
had their own genius.
One of
but
many.
The basis, all these things they claim, you see, Hippocrates, taking sections.
Make sure to hit that like,
Sections
share it
of
out.
the work of earlier Egyptian writers without giving any credit to them at all. Pythagoras, the Pythagorean theorem was worked out long ago. Pythagoras spent 7 years, some people say 22 in Egypt. And he comes back with all these even medical theories and brings it all back to Greece and all the claim. All the great European scholars went to Africa. Thales of Miletus, Democritus, Pythagoras, Eudoxus. There's a whole list of them walking into Africa, picking up things from astronomy, geometry, medicine, etc., and going back home and claiming it to be theirs. Father of this and father of that, when they're the children. In the field of scripts, and this is one of the things, we're the non-literate peoples, I've often heard this, we are the simple peoples, the simple societies, we are the oral peoples. The English are oral, where is their script? This is not English script, this is Roman script. There were only a few Europeans who wrote, only a few Europeans had script, and they gave it to the others. When Cicero conquered Britain, or when the Romans conquered Britain, I remembered Cicero saying, the English are so stupid, I am not even sure I can make them into good slaves.
And that's real shit.
I'm not casting aspersion on the English, I'm just telling you what Cicero said.
A lot of the early white slaves was intolerant.
All this thing about oral, there are many scripts in Africa. The first script, the first major script, that was to affect and influence a great part of the world,
white slaves
was African.
And early white slaves.
Cassetti, which goes up
was-
and becomes
it was
more
fucking
advanced
hard
and
to deal-
developed in
excuse me,
Egypt.
it was hard to deal with.
Move up. The Meroitic script, which we have not yet broken. We have
Motherfuckers wouldn't
800
listen.
texts in Meroitic. We haven't yet broken the code. We have Manding script. We have a whole series. I was in the jungles of Suriname and found them using, the men were writing in the Afaka script to their girlfriends. They came with it from Africa, the Afaka script, they were writing the Afaka script, the Akan script. They developed the part from, they had drum scripts.
Yeah.
Nyangoran Boa has shown us
Not even a
the
slick play,
complicated drum
but we
scripts
just
they
gullible,
developed.
We just gullible.
So that there are written scripts.
If you knew
in
who you
Africa,
was
so
and how
yes,
dope
only
you
a few
are,
people use them. That was true.
you would see the
Europeans.
play
Very
in
many
everything.
Europeans were literate. Even many medieval European kings did not write.
Appreciate you, Kiss.
They had this
Appreciate you,
color classes
Queen.
you had in
I'm just
Africa
glad to
and
see you
America
tap
and
in.
Asia. A few people wrote it.
This is
so
Ivan
within
Van
recent
Sertima, and
times
this is his book.
That you have the great mass of people
It's a good
educated.
reference source.
But it always seems because we stand at the end,
Primary
broken
source.
and defeated, that we were the last to come.
Appreciate you. Shout out to the scientists.
It's just the opposite. When you go and look at their medicine, I spoke to in Atlanta to the Center for Disease Control. Africans had aspirin before us. They were using Salix capensis, which is salicylic acid, the main active ingredient in aspirin. They were using the latter. No,
Say that again.
It's just the opposite. When you go and look at their medicine, I spoke to in Atlanta to the Center for Disease
For anybody
Control.
taking notes.
Africans had aspirin before us. They were using Salix capensis, which is salicylic acid, the main active ingredient in aspirin.
I got it. I just couldn't pull it up, Savage. I'ma check it out.
Nubia. They found the yellow-green flash of tetracycline in Nubian bones 14 centuries ago. They only started using that antibiotic in America in the 1950s. They pioneered in several operations. They pioneered in the cesarean operation. Dr. Finch has written a fine thing on the cesarean. At the time when that operation was experimental in Europe,
They've been mastered
people
already.
like Dr. Felkin went into Africa and observed the Banyoro surgeons performing the cesarean, and the mother was hale and hearty after 4 or 5 days.
These pictures
No
are
woman
grainy
survived
anyway. Don't worry
cesarean
about
in
them.
the
You can
80s.
barely see them on a regular screen.
No woman survived. And they observed the operation, the way they stitched, the way they opened the belly, the way the kind of instruments they used. They observed they were using one of the instruments, the cautery iron, which shows fantastic skill.
If you got any youngins out there, share this stream with them.
In the European hospital, they found
We gotta change the
Africans
narrative.
using both anesthetics and antiseptics in their operating theaters at that time, when in Europe, Lister only introduced antiseptics 2 years earlier than the witness of this operation, which the witness said must have been going on for quite a while because the Africans were performing with routine skill what was then experimental surgery in Europe.
This is
In
Ivan
the
Van
13th
Sertima.
century, they were performing
That's his book.
eye cataract surgery in Jene.
One a minute. These
But
pictures are
when
grainy.
we learn about African medicine, they
You're not
go to
missing
quack
much.
because it's exotic and primitive and nice. So you go and you picture the quack. That's why the camera lies. You take the camera out, the camera is not supposed to lie. You concentrate on the edge of a world. You pick out the quack and you listen to everything he says, all his little magic and his nonsense. He says, well, that's African medicine. You don't deal with the scientific superstructure of that medicine. If I wanted to do that American medicine, boy, are there quacks out there. I am terrified of getting sick because I'm sure my sickness will be fatal. I have never been diagnosed correctly. As soon as I go to the diagnosis so that I could guess the worst possible scenario so I could fight against it. So when you look at medical science,
Absolutely, NFC.
you
Absolutely.
see, for
Appreciate you.
example, one of the innovations, the Africans were the first to use drugs to deal with hypertension and certain forms of psychotic disorder. Even one of their medicines, reserpine, comes out of the African medicine chest. They have a vast herbal pharmacology. We are only now beginning to study this and see the scientific knowledge the Africans had of plants. And when we talk about plants, they were the first in the agricultural field. Recently, there's been a big discovery which has been disputed, where they found that Wadi Kubania and Wadi Tushka in Egypt and Nubia, the earliest cultivation of cereal, wheat, and barley, etc.
I got
And
a
this
couple
was dated
videos
about
on
18,000 years ago.
the
About
African
7,000
origins
years
of
before any other
agriculture and
civilization. It is
medicine
now being
and
downdated. They
music.
said they made a
Y'all
mistake.
gotta go check out the playlist.
But when they thought they were right and that they had made a mistake, they started excusing. They said it is probably not true that agriculture is the basis of civilization. This is could you understand what these 5 centuries have done to the consciousness of the world?
Man.
That even when things are found, even when they're there, you cannot understand. Do you know how they explain the Dogon finding Sirius B? The Russians have given the best explanation because the Russians contacted me when I brought out my thing in the New York Times. I got a letter from Sanarov, academician Sanarov, from one of the Soviet signed cities in Asia, saying that the Russians had been working on Bering Strait migrations and other migrations from the Pacific area. They'd never heard of Atlantic migrations before. They were very interested in my research. And in the communication, I asked them about what they had been doing in Egypt, what discoveries had been made on the NASA because Sadat had kicked them out. And they pointed out that Volosimo, one of their scientists, had found perfectly ground spherical crystal lenses in ancient Africa, and that the Africans had telescopes.
Say that again.
But they didn't even bother. One of their scientists had found perfectly ground spherical crystal lenses in ancient Africa, and that the Africans had telescopes.
You hear that, family? Come on.
But they didn't even bother.
Hit
to
that
think
like.
Africans
Hit that
had
share.
telescopes.
Come on, family.
They
Bless
said
me.
that perhaps.
Audio crack. Salute. Shout out to the scientists.
In America, that some scientifically literate Europeans.
Yeah, you made it. That's all that matters. That's
and
all
gave
that
the
matters.
African savages this knowledge. And that later on, when anthropologists came to study them, they merely vomited it up. The anthropologists who studied the Dogon, Marcel Griot and Germain Dietelin, Griot spent 16 years among the Dogon before they started to talk about that part of the heavens. A long time to vomit. And no one at that time, before or after, until very recent times, knew what the Dogon had found. That there was an elliptical orbit of 50 years around Sirius A and an orbit of 1 year on its own axis. We only found the flashing and darkening of the supernova 2 years ago. We have not yet found it. We may not discover this until next year when we send up our latest space telescope. We will not be able to verify what the Africans said about the 1 year orbit on its own axis. Yet the European gave it to him in the 1920s or 30s. Let me shift from the African world now and touch on something that I have had intimate acquaintance with. I have
Pre-colonial Africa, I believe the book is called. He is the author of. I don't have that in physical form, but I have it in PDF. No pages missing.
That was done in recognition of the work I had done at NASA on blacks in space science. One of the things I discovered is that not only African science is little known, but even modern science, the contribution of blacks to modern science is little known. Look at this electric light. It is true that Edison pioneered the electric light. Edison could only keep the light burning for about 16 hours. The man who provided the carbon filament that made light universal and practical was a black American, Louis Latimer. He 16 hours. The man look at this electric light. It is true that Edison pioneered the electric light. Edison could only keep the light burning for about 16 hours. The man who provided the carbon filament that made light universal and practical was a black American, Louis Latimer. He literally lit London and New York. He actually supervised the lighting. He wrote the first book on incandescent electric lighting. We don't know nothing about him.
Exactly. See the future. Let them know, man. Let them know. See the future.
The economies of Britain and France in the sugar
industry. Who's doing it like
this?
this?
The man who invented the sugar
machine. A man of the people. You dig?
Which on the principle which we use today in taking those sugar crystals, taking the cane juice and transform them into sugar crystals, is a black West Indian Yan Mansalaga. The first man to mass produce shoes in the world. They used to take a long time to produce a shoe by hand. The first shoe making machine, mass production of shoes, it was called the niggerhead machine. After its inventor, a black West Indian. Well, African.
Good,
I'm
good,
just putting
Ross.
him back in of African
Right.
ancestry. The
And also, y'all can get my
first
book.
man to transform the
Let
food
me lace you
industry,
up.
the food transport industry
Purchase
in
my book.
America,
Yeah, I got a book. Yes, sir, I do.
and to
Let me lace you up.
refrigerate the trucks because they were using the primitive method of ice blocks with food. He
For you and the
transformed the
child.
food industry. There again, Frederick Jones, an American, black American. You go and you look at a whole field of things. By the year 1913, 1,000 inventions by blacks were patented. And that was in spite of the fact that in the 19th century, around 1856 or 1848, there was a ruling from the Attorney General, who ironically was called Jeremiah Black. He ruled that you could not patent, a slave could not patent an invention because a patent was a contract between the government and a citizen, and black slaves were not citizens. So from the Attorney General, who ironically was called Jeremiah Black, he ruled that you could not patent, a slave could not patent an invention because a patent was a contract between the government and a citizen, and black slaves were not citizens. So in spite of the fact that their early inventions had to be patented under the names of their white masters, or later under the names of lawyers, yet by 1913, as many as 1,000 inventions were patented by blacks. So I went into NASA to find out what was going on in the space industry. They came to me and they gave me a whole lot of biography. I said, I'm not interested in biographies. I don't want to hear who married who and where they were educated. It's a waste of time. The biggest fools I have met in the world are the best educated. One of the things that I am most grateful for is that in spite of the fact I've been heavily miseducated for many years, I broke from it because at the root I was not a normal person. I grew up in the bush. I was not part of this civilization. From the time I came out and I looked in the city, I didn't like city people. I can adjust to them now. But there's that inherent distrust, because I found that people who had learned things from books, written in a certain way for centuries without much change, just echoing the lies of the past, knew very little about what was and what wasn't.
Man, I love
I
my
therefore
channel.
depended on my instinct, which I tried to kill for many years, but it kept haunting me until it broke through the shell. That was responsible for my survival. The constant doubt that springs from the fact that it is impossible to totally suppress the soul of man. I found, for example, while I was at NASA, that the leading black at NASA was the man who had coordinated all the work of the scientists to produce the world's first space shuttle. The man who was responsible, who was the director of the Driving Flight Research Center, who coordinated all the work of the scientists to push up that first space shuttle, was a black man. His name, hold on a minute, is Major Gillam IV. Major Gillam IV. The leading technical astronaut whom I had a chance to sit and talk with the day before the launch at Cape Kennedy, Colonel Gregory, Frederick Gregory. He's the leading technical astronaut. He's one of the 3 men who were sent up to check out the space shuttle before it goes up. He was the man who was selected to redesign the cockpit, the brain of the space shuttle. He redesigned 5 of the cockpits because the first one was screwed up.
Come on now, black family.
He was responsible. He was responsible. I have a picture of him sitting blind in the middle of an airplane, blind, landing it on the point of a pin. He's responsible for introducing one of the most important new safety devices in airplanes, which will become common in the 1990s, the micro-instrumentation landing system, whereby whether the pilot is blind, dead, or drunk, that plane is going to land at the point of the pin. remote controller, which will enable the pilot cut hand fatigue in half, enable the pilot to control all the systems in the airplane with one hand. And you find also the toilets, even the space toilets are designed by a black. And this was the best design they had, because there's a problem in space. When you have a fall of nature, it doesn't go down, it goes up. And they're always experimenting. So a few shuttles ago, they tried some balloon thing and it burst on the way down. It was a very nasty landing. And the same man, Bob Sherney, invented the tires for the moon buggy. They had to find tires that would be 10 times lighter than Earth tires, that would be able to have traction on 1/5 the gravity of the Earth, which is on the moon, and yet carry the weight of the machines, etc., the instrumentation. Sherney defined that. Sherney is also the only man who has spent the longest time in states of weightlessness without going in a spaceship. And the only aircraft we have, the KC-139-09, KC-135-09 aircraft, the only aircraft that flying a parabolic curve achieves
Salute, Joseph. Peace, God. Shout out to the scientists, man. Make sure to hit that like.
When it spins, everything you have inside.
You know, I gotta change the narrative. Somebody gotta try to.
And the leading researchers in hypersonic research, for example, the leading researchers is a black woman. She's the one who solved the sonic boom. Dr. Christine Darling has solved the sonic boom problem, which will enable us to fly several times the speed of sound at the whisper in the 1990s. I met her also at Cape Kennedy. The two leading black researchers and the leading researchers in space medicine are two black women, one an Afro-Hispanic, Dr. Cowens, and one Dr. Long, who've invented a device which enables you to exercise your involuntary systems, that you can change your heart rate like the yogi. It's like a quantification of yoga. You can change your heart rate and your blood pressure. These things will be spin-offs which will affect the general populace later. These things are necessary in space because we find tremendous problems emerging in space. You go up in space and you find lots of the fluids in your lower system collect, because you can't, it's not like one of those great spaceships you see in the space movies. You can't go running about jogging in the morning, but you have to exercise. You have to keep in extreme fitness because you're operating in zero gravity. And they have done tremendous work in space medicine which will make a tremendous amount of difference to this. One of the things that I found extremely heartening, and let me end now, was that NASA was appreciative of what...
Looking at J.F. Pickering.
They ordered 1,000 copies of this book,
J.F.
so that
Pickering.
their astronauts and others could study it, so that they could see what contribution Africans were making both in ancient and modern times. The first copies were given to our two leading astronauts, Colonel Gregory and Bluford, and these men
This looks like it's going to end at an hour
exactly. They
exactly.
participate in this. They are aware of how important the work they are doing, how they become standards in the world, and that is what I want to end with. We are not doing this simply as an academic exercise. This is not just an accumulation of new facts. These things are presented because we can only heal, and this is true for the black as well as for the white, both the prisoner and the imprisoned, both the prisoner, and the jailer. We are doing this because it is necessary to revise the history of man. The tremendous anguish which is deep in the heart of all of us, which arises out of these falsehoods. This is a movement. This is a movement which is sacred. There was a time when certain people were able to take their history and turn it into a sacred document. History, the study of history in times such as this, can become a sacred activity, a religious activity, whereby the fragmentation that we have suffered, the sense of loss, the sense of alienation and homelessness, can be redeemed by a sense of wholeness, a new sense of wholeness. Such a sense of wholeness can only spring for what we bring here, a new vision of history. Thank you very much.
All right, stop the clapping. It's too loud. And there it is, family. Ivan Van Sertima, Africans in Science, Ancient and Modern. Trying to see when it was published. It's got to be 90s. Can't be 2000s. But yeah, that's Ivan Van Sertima. I hope y'all appreciated the guy, man. And shout out to the scientists. Y'all actually stayed and listened. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Y'all did that. This is one of his books. They came before Columbus. Let me see if I can, there we go. Let me see. I got y'all. Y'all know I got y'all. Vilma, fuck is you doing here, Vilma? Fuck out of here. Oh, I can see when y'all block it on YouTube. Okay, good shit. Okay, so once again, this is his book. This is Ivan Van Sertima's book. But also, like I keep trying to, reference, get the PDFs if you can't get the books. Now, I know a lot of the times the PDFs will have pages missing, but not all the time. It's only on certain shit. So, this is another book, African Presence in Early Asia. Read the whole book, not a page missing. Not a page missing. Once again, not a page missing. It's over 400 pages. I think I read this twice. I at least read every book 3 times. At the least, every single book in your library you should have at least read 3 times. So, once again, African Presence, let me get that right. African Presence in Early Asia, edited by Runoko Rashidi, co-edited by Ivan Van Sertima. It's over 400 pages. I've read this book twice. And another book, the book I spoke on earlier, I gave the incorrect title, was Egypt Revisited by Ivan Van Sertima. Not a page missing. Not a page is missing. Once again, not a page is missing. This is over 400 pages as well. So I would highly suggest this book or the 2 other books I just referred to. I would definitely say get those books and really get into them. Don't just brisk through it. It ain't one of those situations. Get into it. Really check it out. Highlight some shit if you ordered a physical copy, which I need to. So I'm gonna put a little goal on my community tab. Y'all can help me get these books, man. Y'all can help me get all these books, man. So I can do what I do and bring it back to you. But Egypt Revisited, early African origins in, what that shit was called? I'm fucking it up myself. African Presence in Early Asia, and they came before Columbus. What'll go good with this book is this book. Just to add to, the information that you're going to accumulate once you get through with these books. Yeah, you can get most of these books for free on PDF. That's why I keep telling them. A lot of the times, some of the PDFs have pages missing, but not all the time. Like the 2 books I just showed you have all of their pages. All of them. From introduction to the appendix, everything, right? And like I said, we got to push a different narrative. We got to make the intellect cool again. We live in zombie land. That's just where the fuck we live. And that's just how it goes. But not everybody's a zombie. There's half zombies. I call them walkers and talkers. And then you got these children sitting here having to be influenced by all of us. So we got to push a different narrative. We got to make the nerd shit cool. We got to let the youngest know it's okay to be a nerd. It's pretty much what you want to do, because you know everybody else is going to be working for the nerds when y'all get older anyway. So get on this game. You know, once these children know how dope they are, once they know their history, they can definitely make a future. Right now, this generational curse is ignorance. And we keep saying the children are our future. That's bullshit. We just like to say shit that make us feel good. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The kids, the children, whatever you say, the children are our future is bullshit. If we letting all this zombification go on, if we letting all this ignorance going on, just keep continuing to act in our own individual manner, contributing to the bullshit, children ain't got no goddamn future. They gonna have our curse, and they gonna be wishing for, you know, children are our future kumbaya shit too, just like we do. So over here, I don't know about over there. Matter of fact, I don't care about over there. But over here, we push a different narrative. It's okay to be book smart and street smart. You ain't just got to be street smart. You ain't just got to be book smart. Like I say over here, I'll pass you a blunt and a book in a heartbeat. And we're going to politic over this real game over here. I'm trying to tell you, America's worst nightmares is a black man that's street smart and book smart and active on it. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you. Matter of fact, let me show another book reference because I missed the opportunity to do it before. When I did the gym drops of Dr. Ben Joe Cannon, Yakinen, whatever, you know, however you pronounce it. I pronounce it Joe Cannon, but that could be the American in me. You feel me? I should have brought this book up. Oh, I got more books. Y'all know I got books for days. This shit I just don't show all the time. This is Dr. Ben, as you see at the bottom. There you go. Great book. I would say the only downfall of the book, not Dr. Ben, but of the book, is the way it's printed. I can't stand the way it's printed. I'll show you. Get the book. Fuck the printing. Get the book. It's about the information. If a messenger come and he stutter, you better listen to him anyway. He still got a message to give you. It's just the way that it's printed. I don't like how it's printed. I just don't like how it's printed. Because it's not really too organized. It's organized enough if it ain't. Whoever typed it out and printed it could do better. That's all I'm saying about that. But yeah, anybody that I reference, anybody that, you know, that I showcase, if you will, I got their work. I studied their work. No matter who it is. You dig what I'm saying? And Ivan Van Sertima, he doesn't do too much debates with people. Well, he didn't do too much debating with people. He did more of what I do and what I try to like in a slick fashion, try to showcase wherever I go, is he had conversations. He built with people, you know? It's the message that count. That's it. That's it. Did you get the message, nigga? The fall of ancient? No, that's motherfucking Elijah Muhammad. I believe that's Elijah Muhammad, the fall of America. Yeah, that's motherfucking Elijah Muhammad, but I'm about to make sure. Before I just say it was for real. It ain't coming up anybody else. It's just coming up Elijah Muhammad. I got that book too. Shit. Well, I got that PDF. If you go to my I'm glad we talk about PDFs, because as well, if you go to my Discord, I got it posted on my community tab, the link to my Discord. I have an entire library of PDFs I don't think they heard you or they give a shit. Maybe they give a shit. I don't know. I have a full library. Did y'all hear that? A full library of PDFs. Full PDFs, by the way, that you can just download books. Just download a whole library to your own phone or a laptop. Like, I try to give everything I can to get y'all together. And we're all getting it together. I don't know everything, so don't take that as I'm calling you goofy or some shit. I'm building myself every day with information. But on my Discord link, just tap the link, create a profile name. That's it. And you can go in there and just, it's all free. Just hit library and start downloading these books. Books for days. Here's The Fall of America by Elijah Muhammad. And I got all the shit in one, actually. It's 177 pages. Real simple, like. And it's full, too. No, not a missing page. You don't have to download or sign in and sign up for wherever. No, you ain't got to do none of that. All this is on my Discord. We got to push the narrative. We in an ignorance is bliss euphoric stage right now, you know? And I'm strictly talking about the Black collective. I understand it goes on the global aspect as well. That we know this already. We need to focus on us. I try to keep the focus on us, good and bad. Just the same way I can call Black folks goofy. Bunch of excuse-making motherfuckers. I can, at the same time, showcase how dope we are. At the same time. We got to take the good and the bad. We like to hear the good only. And they put us in a position that we ain't... in a position. That's what it put us in. You know, I gotta say shout out to the scientists once again. Shout out to the scientists. That is y'all. Y'all could have left. Y'all could have, I ain't trying to hear that shit. Learn shit. Get the fuck out. Y'all could have did that and dipped out. Just threw a like my way and dipped out. A lot of people did, but at least they hit that like. But to the ones who stayed, to the scientists out here, I appreciate y'all. Y'all didn't have to do that. And it's good to see people actually stick around for information, knowledge. You know, I like seeing that. I'm one of those type. All my failures are by choice. Most of my failures are by choice. Every decision I made is my problem. You know what I'm saying? Every decision has karma attached to it. That left you made has a karma attached to it. That right you make has karma attached to it. And we got to take it. We got to know that's good karma, that's bad karma. And it doesn't have a time when it's going to come. It's just going to show up. It's going to come through. Having a good old day. Oh, let me come through and fuck up this day. You got to take it, though. You know, we all go through those. That's what I say in the morning. We all go through what we do. Yeah, I don't blame anybody for the shit I did. It just don't make sense. It just don't make sense. But anyway, let me get back to this. I appreciate y'all. Looking at J.F. Pickering. J.F. Pickering. The airship. You know, we have done all the sciences of the world. Let me summarize this shit. Let me get straight to it. All of the sciences of the world, all of them, came from us. Ain't no need to, what exactly individual didn't, no, us. We're a great people. We are an amazing people. We're a dope people. It's like we just have a continued amnesia by choice. I can't leave out that by choice part. We have a continued amnesia, ignorance is bliss utopia, false reality we have created for ourselves. And if you come and you point the finger back at us, we don't like it because of that euphoria feeling, that utopian feeling of ignorance we love. It makes sense, family. So I'm glad y'all stayed here. I'm glad y'all conversated and made sure that I knew y'all was still here. Like, we ain't leave, cuz. We ain't leave, cuz. I love that. So with that being said, family, this was Ivan Van Sertima's Gem Drop, the African in Science, Ancient and Modern. Tomorrow, I'll be doing a part 2. I only do 2 videos of each teacher, just to give the family introduction to who they are. So tomorrow, I'll be wrapping it up with Ivan Van Sertima, and we're going to push on to the next. Once we done with these couple that I feel like, you know, are very impactful and helpful, we'll get into debates. We're going to get into debates as well. Just to showcase communication, the proper ways of communication, even when you disagree with somebody. How should you shut the fuck up, let them finish, take a mental note of what you disagree with, and attack those points, and then be quiet, let them go. So, family, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Appreciate the shares, the likes. I see we 22 likes in with 9 people in the building. That's dope to me. Appreciate the subscriptions for anybody who's like, damn, this motherfucking lightweight dope. Let me subscribe. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate those who want to bless the Cash App and the PayPals, and who have already and who do. Fuck all that. Just appreciate y'all in general. You know, lets me know I'm on the right path, and it's worth it. It's worth it. We'll be back tomorrow, family. Peace.